If you are new to this channel, welcome. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. To all my subscribers, I appreciate your unwavering support. And to those who have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that keeps this storytelling journey alive. After this short hook intro, do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. Jesse's hand was around my waist, pulling me back against his chest as his mouth found the side of my neck. The mirror in his apartment gym was the only witness to what we were doing, what I was doing. I moaned. And it disgusted me. Not because of how it felt, but because I knew whose name I should have been whispering. Thomas. My husband. The man who would have given his life for me without blinking. But in that moment, my wedding ring pressed against the dumbbell rack as Jesse lifted my leg around his waist, and I let it happen. I was not drunk. I was not tricked. I chose this. And it would haunt me forever. My name is Rachel Walker. I am 34 years old. I live in a suburban neighborhood just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I have 2 children, a 4-bedroom home, and a husband most women would kill for. His name is Thomas. He is 36. He works in finance, still opens doors for me, still leaves sticky notes on the bathroom mirror that say things like, "You are my forever." And I ruined him. I met Jesse Rhodes 2 months ago at a gym I had only just joined. He was a personal trainer, tall, chiseled, tattoos peeking out of his sleeves. There was something wild about him, something that made me feel like I still had blood pumping through my veins. That first day, he watched me from across the floor, and I liked it more than I should have. That was the first betrayal. Not the night we had sex. But the day I caught his eye, smiled back, and let the idea of him linger longer than it should have. It started slow. Friendly conversations between reps, compliments that came off playful, but were heavy with meaning. I told myself I was just being friendly, that it was innocent. I wore tighter leggings, then unzipped my hoodie lower. Jesse noticed. I noticed him noticing. And I liked it. At home, Thomas kept being Thomas, predictable, loving, devoted. He asked about my day, made dinner when I got tired, and even helped me stretch after my workouts. I started resenting his goodness. I wanted edge. Fire. Danger. Jesse was all of that. I flirted. Then I texted. Then I deleted those texts. Then I lied about staying late at the gym. Then I stopped lying. I just stopped caring. It was a Wednesday night. I told Thomas the first was going to try a new spin class at 8 p.m. He kissed my forehead, told me to have fun, and said he would put the kids to bed himself. I drove to Jesse's apartment. He did not even kiss me at first. He just stood in the doorway, shirtless, his jaw clenched like he had been waiting for this too long. I stepped inside. I did not hesitate. I did not even look back at the door. He pressed me against the kitchen counter. My legs wrapped around him like my body had betrayed my soul. It was heat. Raw, unfiltered desire. I told myself this was for me, for the woman who had been invisible for too long. But as I lay there after, staring at the ceiling of a stranger's apartment, the shame came rushing in like a flood. Jesse offered to make me a protein shake. I wanted to scream. Instead, I put on my clothes and drove home. My thighs still ached from him. My soul felt hollow. Thomas was on the couch, asleep, the TV still playing. I stood in the doorway for a full minute, just staring at him. He looked peaceful. Pure. Like he belonged in a better world than this one. I slipped into the shower, scrubbing every part of me with shaking hands, but nothing washed away the guilt. The water was hot enough to scald, but my skin still crawled. That night, he pulled me into his arms and said, "You smell amazing." I cried silently into his chest. He thought I was just tired. People think affairs start with sex. They do not. They start with silence. With little pieces of yourself breaking off quietly, until there is nothing left to protect. I told myself I would never do it again. That I had made a mistake. But the truth was, Jesse had tasted something in me that I had not known was still alive. And I would go back. Even though I knew Thomas would be the one to pay the price. I stood in front of the mirror the next morning, brushing my hair like nothing had changed. But everything had. My body looked the same. My home still smelled like fresh laundry and coffee. Thomas still kissed me goodbye with that same gentle hand at the back of my head. The kids still bickered over cereal. But I was not the woman they believed in anymore. The mask fit perfectly. Too perfectly. And that scared me. The second time with Jesse happened 3 days later. It was not planned. At least, not out loud. But I wore the same leggings again, the black ones with the slit down the side, and I lingered longer in front of the leg press machine. He walked over. Said nothing. Just looked at me like he already owned me. I followed him to the trainer's locker room. There were no cameras. He knew. I knew. He pushed me against the wall, kissed me hard, and there was no guilt in his eyes. No confusion in mine. I had crossed the line, and now I was dancing on it. At home, Thomas noticed my weight loss. He said I looked happier. More confident. I wanted to vomit. Instead, I smiled and said the gym was helping. That I felt more like myself again. He wrapped his arms around me and said, "I am proud of you." I wanted him to hate me. To slap me with questions I would have no answers for. But he kept loving me. Kept trusting me. And every time he did, it cracked me open a little more. Jesse was not gentle. He was not romantic. But he was everything my body had started craving. He touched me with hunger, not devotion. And I fed off it. It was like punishing myself through pleasure. He never asked about Thomas. Never mentioned guilt. He knew the rules, we both did. But slowly, Jesse started acting like he had more than skin in the game. He would text me late at night, "You asleep with him right now? Bet he can't make you scream like I do." At first, I ignored those texts. Then I responded. Then I found myself thinking about them while Thomas laid beside me, snoring softly. That was when I realized I was not just cheating on my husband's body. I was cheating on his peace. One afternoon, I came home from a session with Jesse, still flushed, still sore, and found Thomas folding my laundry. He had put a vanilla candle on in the bedroom and was playing soft jazz, the same playlist from our anniversary night last year. I almost told him everything right there. Almost dropped to my knees and begged for forgiveness before it was too late. But I said nothing. Instead, I kissed him, hard. Tried to erase Jesse's fingerprints with my lips. I straddled him and took what I needed to believe I was still his wife. I told myself that if I could still touch Thomas, maybe I was not fully gone yet. But as soon as I climaxed, tears spilled down my face. Thomas thought they were from passion. They were from shame. A week later, Jesse showed up at my car in the gym parking lot. He had that look, jealous, possessive. Dangerous. "You look good today," he said, leaning into the driver's side window. I looked around, paranoid. "Do not talk to me like that here," I whispered. He smirked. "Why? Scared your husband will catch on?" That was the first time I felt fear around Jesse. Not because of what he said. But because he wanted to be caught. Thomas planned a weekend getaway for us in Savannah. Just the two of us. No kids. No distractions. He booked a cozy little bed and breakfast and told me he wanted to reconnect. I smiled. Nodded. Pretended I was excited. But inside, I was crumbling. I lied to Jesse. Told him we were going to visit my sick aunt. He did not believe me. He showed up at my house the night before we left, unannounced. I was in the driveway, packing bags into the trunk. He walked up behind me and grabbed my waist. "What the hell are you doing?" I hissed. "Wanted to see what he looks like up close," he said, eyes darting toward the house. "You need to leave. Now." He leaned in and whispered, "Do not forget who you scream for." Then he walked off, slow and smug, like he had just marked his territory. On the drive to Savannah, Thomas held my hand the whole way. He played our favorite songs, told me stories from his work week, and even stopped to get my favorite chai latte. He was trying. God, he was trying. And I was dying inside. At the bed and breakfast, he surprised me with a couple's massage. I smiled, kissed him, and told him he was amazing. That night, he made love to me with so much gentleness that I could barely breathe. It was not lust. It was love. And it broke me. Back home, the pressure boiled over. Jesse started texting constantly, getting angrier when I did not reply. One afternoon, he left a pair of my underwear I had forgotten in his apartment, on the windshield of my car. At the grocery store. It was not a threat. It was a warning. He wanted chaos. I raced home, ripped the lace panties off the windshield, and drove straight to his place. I screamed. Shoved him. He laughed. Said, maybe it is time he found out. That was when I realized, I had not just cheated on Thomas. I had brought a predator into our marriage. That evening, Thomas came into the bedroom holding my phone. He was pale. Quiet. His eyes were red. He handed it to me. "Who is Jesse?" My heart stopped. On the screen was a message I had forgotten to delete. "You were incredible last night. Still thinking about that thing you did with your mouth." My soul cracked open. Thomas did not yell. He just said, "Tell me this is not what it looks like." I opened my mouth. But no words came. Because it was exactly what it looked like. Thomas did not say anything else that night. Not after reading the message. Not after I sat there, silently shaking, with no defense, no excuses. He just stood up, walked out of the bedroom, and I heard the front door open and close. He left without his wallet. Without shoes. I sat there with the weight of my own destruction pressing down on my chest like a stone. I had finally detonated the bomb I had been dancing around for months. And the man I loved, yes, still loved, was the one I had just shattered. The hours dragged. I called him. Over and over. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Begged. Promised. Lied again. Then told the truth. Then begged again. By the time the sun came up, he still had not come home. And the house felt like a crime scene. Because it was. He returned the next morning around 8:15 a.m. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight, and his voice, when he finally used it, was hoarse, like something inside him had died. "I stayed at my brother's," he said. "Do not worry. I told the kids I had to work early." I stood in front of him, ready to speak, to explain, to unravel the chaos I had created. But he held up one hand and said quietly, "Please. Do not lie to me anymore." I froze. He sat down on the edge of the bed, exhaled like he had been holding his breath for years, and asked one question. "How long?" I told him the truth. 2 months. Maybe more. I had lost track of the exact day it started, because I had erased too many pieces of myself trying to keep it all together. I watched the man I married go pale. His eyes locked on the floor, his mouth parted like he could not decide whether to scream or sob. "I thought I knew you," he said. I wanted to tell him he still did. That the woman who held our babies in her arms, who stood beside him through layoffs and illnesses and Christmas mornings, that woman was still inside me. But he looked up at me with a stare so cold, so devastated, I knew better. He did not know me anymore. And maybe he never had. The days after that were unbearable. We slept in the same house but not in the same room. The kids knew something was wrong. Thomas tried to smile through it for their sake, but even they could sense the tension thick in the air. He moved to the guest bedroom. Packed some of his things in boxes but never left fully. He did not scream. He did not curse. He did not even ask for more details. It was like he had shut off the part of himself that felt. And that terrified me more than any explosion. Because I had not just broken his heart. I had made him numb. Jesse texted again. So, he knows? I stared at the screen like it belonged to someone else. He followed up, you free tonight? I blocked him. Deleted every message. Every photo. Every memory. It was too late, but I still did it. Because looking at my husband limp through life like a ghost made me realize. The thrill had not been worth the corpse of a man I once promised to cherish. A week later, Thomas sat me down at the kitchen table. The same table where we had eaten pancakes with the kids. Played board games. Laughed until our cheeks hurt. Now it felt like a negotiation room. I want separation, he said, quietly. I am not filing for divorce yet. But I need space. I need to breathe. And figure out if I can ever trust myself around you again. Not trust me. Trust himself around me. That was the moment it fully hit me. I had not just betrayed him. I had made him question his own judgment. His own love. His own reality. I signed the papers without a fight. What right did I have to beg? He packed a few more things and left on a Friday morning. The kids stayed with me that weekend. I cried into my pillow the minute they fell asleep. Not because he had left. But because I knew he had every right to. Time moved like a punishment. Everywhere I went in that house, I saw his love. Not the absence of it, but the echoes. The small framed photos he had taken of me while I was not looking. The sticky note in the bathroom drawer that said, "Smile, beautiful." The half-used shaving cream in the cabinet. One night, I opened our old photo album, the one from our wedding, and stared at the woman in the white dress. I wanted to scream at her. Shake her. Tell her to never, ever forget how deeply that man loved her. But she was gone. And in her place stood someone I no longer recognized. 3 months passed. No word from Jesse. Thank God. Thomas called occasionally to check in about the kids, but nothing personal. Nothing warm. His voice was efficient. Cold. Like a man talking to a stranger he used to know. I tried therapy. I went alone. I cried in front of a stranger who called me brave for facing my demons. But I did not feel brave. I felt like I had killed something sacred, and was being forced to live with the blood on my hands. 6 months in, Thomas agreed to have dinner with me. Just the two of us. I dressed up. Not to impress him. But to remind myself I was still alive. We sat across from each other in the same restaurant where he had proposed to me 12 years earlier. The waiter brought wine. Neither of us touched it. Thomas looked older. Tired. But somehow stronger too. I reached for his hand. He pulled back, slowly. Not cruelly. Just, protectively. I am not ready, he said. I nodded. I do not know if I ever will be. I bit my lip to keep the tears in. I understand. He looked at me then, and for the first time, I saw something besides hurt. I saw finality. He never moved back home. He still co-parents beautifully. Still shows up to soccer games. Still smiles for the kids in photos. But I am not in those photos anymore. I am behind the camera now. Capturing the moments of a man I once had. And lost. I hurt the only man who ever truly loved me. Not by accident. Not by mistake. But by choice. I let a stranger touch parts of me that belonged to him. I let ego and desire blind me to the treasure I already had. And the worst part is, not that I lost him. It is that I know I never deserved him to begin with. So now I live with the weight of that truth. Not to punish myself, but to never forget the price of betrayal. Because sometimes, the one you break, is the only one who ever saw the real you, and loved you anyway.